So today, we will be ranking and explaining the multiple different students that walk the halls of Jujutsu Technical High School, as well as their sister school, Kyoto Technical High School. All of the students that we know of at least. Any others we don't know about will have to be left out. But you'll be happy to know, it seems any 4th year sorcerers that would have existed were KIA according to Gege. So that's always pleasant. Now, there are 16 students in total that attend Jujutsu High, and each and every one of them has a unique trait and curse technique that sets them apart from their classmates. One of the greatest things about Jujutsu Kaisen is because of the way its power system was designed, battles rarely fall down to just brute strength or random power-ups at the last second. The abilities are complex. Certain people hard counter others despite having clear power differences. And frankly, it makes for intense and unpredictable fights. But today, we're just gonna throw all of that out of the window. Well, not exactly. We will be taking certain specific matchups into consideration to justify certain special candidates and why they're placed where they are. But we will, most likely, be tying each individual's status on this ranking by feats, overall stats, and possibility they have of dominating the students that are listed beneath them. So without wasting any more time, you understand what we're here for. I've done my job setting this video up. Let's get right into it and start out with number 16, opening right up with the weakest Jujutsu High student on this list. Oh, and manga spoilers. Arata Nita is a first-year student at Kyoto Jujutsu High, and definitely the lowest level of sorcerer on this entire list.
Who?
Arata makes his appearance during Shibuya with Todo, having absolutely no experience in actual combat whatsoever. His curse technique does make him a significant asset in a supporting role. His technique, Painkiller, allows him to stop existing injuries from getting any worse. Not actually healing the wound, but stopping the bleeding and reducing the pain. His older sister is auxiliary manager Hakari Nita, and that's literally his only distinguishable factor. Zenin is a second-year student at Kyoto Jujutsu High, and the identical twin of much higher-ranked student Maki Zenin from Tokyo Jujutsu High. Despite having access to cursed energy unlike her sister, she was still patronized by her clan for having low talent in sorcery. However, while Mai was content living as a servant her entire life, her sister Maki was incapable of submitting to her clan's misogynistic views. When Maki defected from the clan and set on her path to become a sorcerer alone, Mai was forced to study Jujutsu in order to atone for her sister's sin. Her curse technique is Construction, an ability with high potential but ineffective in its current state, draining Mai of all of her energy for only 1 usage per day. Construction allows Mai to create a material object out of thin air using only cursed energy, being shown using this to create a 7th bullet in her revolver in order to trick Maki into thinking she was out of ammo. Despite excellent marksmanship and perhaps a technique with full potential to grow and develop, Mai's disgust with the sorcerer lifestyle and terror of cursed spirits in general would keep her from becoming anything more than a low-level 3rd grade sorcerer. Miwa Kasumi is yet another second-year student at Kyoto Jujutsu High. Are you starting to see a trend here? As a young child, Miwa's mother would often dye her hair black due to the weird blue color of her hair that seemed to come out of nowhere. Born into a poor family with 2 younger brothers, Miwa seems to be the most relatable, down-to-earth character among the Kyoto students, often seeing things in a much less jaded fashion compared to her peers. With the goal of raising enough money to not be a burden on her mother, she took up the art of sword fighting when she was very young to train and became a Jujutsu sorcerer. Although she doesn't have an innate technique of her own, Miwa is able to make use of barrier techniques like Simple Domain and pair this with her swordsmanship to create attacks like Bato Sword Drawing, an ability of the new Shadow style passed down to her by her mentor. Despite her undeniable courage and solid character, Miwa tends to be a wallflower off and on the battlefield. Not presenting much of an overall threat, she maintains the rank of a grade 3 sorcerer. A normal trend for her is to call herself useless, and she regularly feels like a burden for others. Despite this, fans of the series seem to think she is going to accomplish a huge goal before the end of the series. Toge Inumaki is the first Tokyo Jujutsu High student that will be appearing on our list today. Despite having one of the most universally effective curse techniques, curse speech, when compared to a lot of the more fight-intelligent players that come in higher on the list, sadly, he doesn't hold much of a candle. Regardless, as a member of the Inumaki clan, Toge was born with the clan's mark, the snake and fangs, on his tongue and cheeks. Because of this, since being a young child, Toge has had to completely develop a new pattern of speech to avoid accidentally cursing those around him. The power of cursed speech, despite being easily avoided by sorcerers through proper cursed energy shielding of the ears, can be heavily damaging if directly struck by it.
Your life is nothing!
When Inumaki speaks, his words are translated into a destructive spell that forces the victim to react and be manipulated in the phrase given. Drastic commands like explode can be used, while also being mitigated by diversionary tactics like sleep. A purely versatile ability, its usefulness cannot be denied. Unfortunately though, throughout the series, Toge has not had much time to shine and has merely been a punching bag. Cursed speech also harshly injures the user's throat, making it difficult to use multiple times in a single sitting, putting him at the low spot of 13 on this list, even though he's technically a semi-grade 1 sorcerer. Momo Nishimiya is the female member of the third-year trio for Kyoto Jujutsu High, sharing a class year with both Aoi Todo and Noritoshi Kamo. Designed after the classical rendition of a witch, Momo maintains a very petite frame which only accentuates the other qualities of her personality. Scorned by the Jujutsu world's patriarchy and molding a timid and bitter persona because of this, Momo believes that women in society must prioritize cuteness and beauty over strength, as being too strong can make a woman intimidating. Women Jujutsu sorcerers must be perfect, not just powerful. Unapologetically playing her role as a supporting team member, Momo's innate technique is called tool manipulation, which she uses to telekinetically control the broomstick she uses for flight or even long-range attacks. She is also proficient in cursed energy manipulation, capable of outputting this in combination with her broom to use the wind as an offense. A semi-grade 2 sorcerer, despite claiming she was holding back against Nobara in their battle against the exchange event, it's clear she lacks battle proficiency, and is much more comfortable taking a back seat in preference of scouting or recon rather than actual fighting, placing her just below the next person on this list. Kukusaki Nobara, best girl, the female lead of the series herself.
I didn't care anymore!
Kukusaki Nobara, despite only being a first-year student, after her display of aptitude in the exchange event, she was promoted to a semi-grade 1 level sorcerer, in review for full grade 1 status. A descendant of the progenitors of the Straw Doll Curse technique, Nobara is able to use the ability and its multiple forms with pure mastery thanks to the teachings of her grandmother. As a young child, Nobara always dreamed of leaving the countryside and living in the big city. Her grandmother's sorcery was the first and only outlet she needed to put passion into an escape. For this reason, Gojo was skeptical if she had the actual makeup of a Jujutsu sorcerer. However, in the words of Satoru, it takes someone virtually insane to be a sorcerer. However, the Honored One was delighted to know his new student more than fit the build for the job, having excellent knowledge on exercising curses, merely lacking the physical skills to execute correct etiquette. After meeting with her upperclassmen Maki, Zenin, and Panda, Nobara is able to unlock her true potential, developing a solid groundwork for close quarters combat and a knack for defending against hard hits. Nobara is now able to fully utilize the depths of her straw doll technique in a much more offensive way than when she first left the country. Having the ability to take a severed piece of her victim and utilize tools such as hammers and nails to damage them by using a straw doll as an effigy, or just igniting the cursed energy like a bomb on a detonator. When using a straw doll as a vessel, she creates a connection between both her and the victim through her cursed energy, which then makes any pain or damage occurring to the doll translate over to the victim. Kukusaki is also able to use this ability in clever ways, like using herself as the effigy, which allows her to damage Eso and Kichizu when they unknowingly create a connection between them with their blood. Or when she's able to puncture Mahito's soul and actually do real damage to the cursed spirit thanks to resonance reaching deep into the two connected persons. One of the lucky few who has crossed planes and performed a black flash. Now with a much better grasp on the core of her cursed energy, Nobara's potential continues to turn her into a dangerous threat. But she still has a long way to go before she takes a W from any of the people ranked above her. Panda Yaga is not a panda. No, seriously, he's not a panda. A mutated cursed corpse that, through his father Masamichi Yaga's research and development, is able to create its own self-sustained cursed energy by creating a relationship among 3 separate cores with different spirits inside of them, all constantly feeding data and synergy to each other, creating a system that is somehow able to fuel itself. These 3 cores, or souls if you will, all inhabit the same vessel, learning to cooperate and live together as one single unit. This amalgamation of advancements in Jujutsu created the being known as Panda. Panda being the dominant core of the trio, he shares the vessel with his 2 other siblings, a brother and a sister, who each have their own individual personality and powers, allowing Panda to tap into these sibling cores and use their strength in battle to create more offensive and defensive opportunities for himself that a normal panda wouldn't be capable of. On his own, he maintains a tight grip on close quarters combat thanks to his training from his father Yaga, although not quite on the level of his classmate Maki Zenin. His massive advantage over most people is his ability to amplify his natural heightened strength over others using his siblings. For example, his brother Gorilla, vastly improving the power behind his attacks or speed, allowing him to even impress the likes of Heian-era sorcerers with his unblockable drumming beat. Although a tough threat to tackle for most beginner to intermediate level sorcerers, this is only due to his physical tenacity and size, only retaining the rank of grade 2. When presented with an opponent with a clever technique or a higher fight IQ, Panda immediately folds under the pressure, proving that although he may have logic and intelligence behind him, the only thing truly special about him is surface level. He's a fighting panda, and Tekken did that shit first. Speaking of clever techniques and fight IQ, our first single-digit ranking character is Kamo Noritoshi, the next rightful heir to the Kamo clan. A semi-grade 1 sorcerer, and another 3rd year sharing seniority with the likes of people like Todo and Hakari, Noritoshi isn't one to underestimate despite his underutilization in the series so far. An inheritor of the Kamo clan's sacred blood manipulation curse technique, Noritoshi is able to use his blood to fire off high-speed and long-range offensive attacks. Uniquely, Noritoshi uses this long-distance manipulation to place blood into arrows and then firing them off, allowing him to use them like heat-seeking missiles on his opponents, while also significantly reducing the need to use a large amount of blood. Clearly a natural in sorcery, Kamo uses his technique as if it's second nature to him, able to expertly control the arrows he fires, while also shown being capable to use secret Kamo techniques like piercing blood or crimson binding. I've talked about the versatility of blood manipulation at length in my Yuji vs Choso video, but the benefits of this inherited ability allow Kamo an advantage in close, middle, and long-range combat. Flowing Red's scale picking up any slack Noritoshi may face in the physical realm as far as speed and strength go. However, impressive as Noritoshi may be with the privileges he was dealt, one fatal flaw that keeps him from attaining a higher spot on this list is the limitation of only having a limited source of blood. Commonly, blood manipulation is now associated with Choso, but Choso is a death painting, and as a cursed spirit hybrid, holds an unlimited amount of blood that can be pulled from, thanks to being able to create it from scratch with cursed energy. Noritoshi, restricted to the use of blood packets or his own blood itself, risks multiple factors in long-lasting battles. He also loses his entire arsenal of attack if he is critically injured and losing too much blood. Despite being one of the more intelligent and tactful students on this list, his limitations do hold him back from defeating some of his more powerful peers. While being a tough opponent and a very respectable leader among the Jujutsu High 16, Noritoshi's poor stamina keeps him from being placed anywhere higher on this list. Moving on to people that are held down by their limitations, let's talk about someone who shatters those restrictions. Kokichi Muta, otherwise known as Ultimate Mekamaru, is a second year at Kyoto Jujutsu High, and the first member on this list to appear with Heavenly Restriction. Born with glass bones and paper skin, Kokichi Muta was cursed at birth with a crippled, weak, and fragile body, but in turn, he received massive power, a pool of cursed energy deep enough to allow his curse technique, puppet manipulation, to actually effectively communicate and work across the entire nation of Japan with little effort. Kokichi, however, would have traded all of this talent and cursed energy for a normal life in a heartbeat. Growing up as a recluse, tinkering and working on developing his puppets, forced to accept his life as a Jujutsu sorcerer. He actually became quite great at exercising curses, achieving semi-grade 1 rank, although later in the series, we do see he's capable of controlling more than one at once. Kokichi's experiments are what keep him so high on this list, as well as his high damage capability, shown able to reduce large amounts of landscape to dirt in moments. And this is only a fraction of the power Mekamaru has saved up over his years of lonesome. While the world has been turning without him, Kokichi Muta has been watching. With eyes all over Japan, Kokichi has molded a battle IQ unmatched by most from gaining knowledge of others and their abilities by watching from afar. Shown capable of even performing abilities he was never taught just from seeing them through his robots, like new Shadow Style Simple Domain. And during his final battle with Mahito, Kenjaku compares Kokichi's cursed energy output to temporarily reaching the heights of a special grade, when releasing the pent-up years of solace Mekamaru was storing inside of himself. Even the adaptable Mahito was finding it difficult to escape Kokichi's attacks, and was having trouble keeping up with the amount of damage Mekamaru was able to supply in such large quantities with little interruption. And on top of all of that, able to control his puppets from a long range or keep himself safe inside the hull of his ultimate mech, he's almost impossible to reach and do actual damage to. Combining this loophole of defense with massive destructive power, Kokichi's overwhelming offense and range of his puppet manipulation allows him to control the fight through sheer numbers or size. The only students that would potentially be able to handle a cataclysmic opponent like this and come out on top are those with enough power to actually back up their tenacity, or have just plain hacks abilities. Speaking of hacks abilities, next on our list we have Kirara Hoshi, one of the rumored third years at Tokyo Jujutsu High and a high-level coordinator at the Gajinko Fight Club. Kirara is the well-respected and trusted partner of Hakari Kinji, also suspended from Jujutsu High along with Hakari after getting into a fight with the conservative faction during the night parade of 100 demons. They now both run a criminal syndicate underground sorcerer arena, where curse users battle to the death for the entertainment of others. In charge of security at the establishment, Kirara's high intellectual and complex curse technique allow them to maintain a complete dominance over most battlefields, regardless of preparation level. Due to Kirara's intense level of expertise with their curse technique, even on the fly they are able to begin taking control of most situations, and without a matching intellect, it becomes nigh impossible to even land an attack on Kirara without falling into their trap. Love Rendezvous, Kirara Hoshi's curse technique, allows them to target and mark objects imbued with cursed energy with a particular star pattern, much like the ones found in Kirara's eyes. Taking after the southern constellation, Kirara is able to interchangeably mark items with one of the 5 stars that exist inside the constellation. These marks create a force field of magnetic pushes and pulls that keep opponents away based on what star they've been marked with in relation to the star the object they've tried to reach has been marked with. The only way to bypass the technique is to move from star to star in the correct order, depending on the actual distance of these stars from the Earth itself. For example, an opponent would be marked with Imai, the first and closest star, and Kirara may be marked with Gukrux, the 5th and furthest star. Between the opponent and Kirara is a house, marked with the middle star, Mimosa, a rock between the house and the opponent marked with Ginan, number 4, and another rock marked with Akrux between the house and Kirara, number 2. The opponent, in this case, cannot follow a straight line because the rock in front of him is marked with number 4, Ginan, and this is not proper order. He will be pushed or pulled away. The opponent instead must go to the rock on the other side, marked with Akrux, number 2, first. as that is the only star that will not repel him, as Imai is first and Okkotsu is second. Using that logic, next would be the house for number 3, Mimosa. And then back to the original rock marked with number 4. Then to the final and 5th target, Gakrux. The key is you have to follow the order, and that is not easy to figure out. Megumi, in his battle with Kirara, was really only able to decipher this code by having prior knowledge of the star constellations. Convenient.
Nerd alert!
And he is generally one of the more intuitive characters in the entire series, making most characters on this list immediately fall into the trap of being unable to figure out the vulnerability in Kirara's technique. And as we've seen through their fight with Megumi, they're capable of marking objects with their cursed energy signature fairly easily, multiple items at once it seems. Kirara can also change the stars their targets are marked with on a dime to confuse their opponent, or change the order of execution to make the opponent start from scratch if they are ever able to figure out their strategy. Because of this, Kirara also maintains a massive offensive potential as well, capable of flinging debris of increasing size depending on what they have access to in the moment. As a third-year sorcerer, Kirara truly set the standard for how someone with a much better understanding of cursed energy and Jujutsu can be dangerous. Love Rendezvous, especially in its full-fledged form, is going to be an instant win condition against most of the people on this list, just on technicality alone. Getting into the heavier hitters of the Jujutsu High classmen lineup now, we have Aoi Todo taking place at number 6. The final third year from Kyoto Jujutsu High, Aoi Todo is a unique, gigantic meathead that reached the level of grade 1 sorcerer before reaching his 4th year at the school. He is well known among Jujutsu society thanks to his exercising of 5 grade 1 cursed spirits as well as 1 special grade during the Night of 100 Demons parade. Todo initially comes off as an uneducated Neanderthal due to his habit of demanding people admit what type of woman they like upon first meeting them. However, ironically, the exact opposite is the case. An incredibly genius strategist, Todo is also very open-minded and well-spoken for his age, at times fluctuating between the personality of a wise old sage and a deer in headlights. His natural fight IQ is something that he was born with, even as a young child, capable of defeating opponents much larger than him. His fighting spirit is actually what pulled him into the Jujutsu world, causing him to meet the woman who would eventually become his mentor, Yuki Tsukumo. Despite being a prodigy, Todo shares no lineage as a sorcerer, born with the ability to see curses as well as fluently manipulate his cursed energy, being taught to mold his strength and personality into a sorcerer fit to be Yuki Tsukumo's student. It's no surprise how he would beat even nepotism down when given the opportunity to truly maximize his purpose in life. The scar on his face, a constant proof that he survived the harsh training of his master. He now carves his own path in Jujutsu society and doesn't allow himself to be held down by any ideals that aren't his own. The mark of a true, self-affirming sorcerer, always following his heart. This separates him from his peers, not only emotionally, but power-wise as well. A reliable monster, his reputation does not deceive him. Itadori Yuji even vouches for this strength, claiming one solid punch was capable of completely blowing a limb off. For this reason, he's confident enough to fight all 6 second and first years in Tokyo school at once during the exchange event just to even attempt to have a challenge. Even with his large size, Todo is surprisingly agile and effective in close quarters combat, able to tactfully put down and critically injure anyone without a solid grasp on hand-to-hand fighting, before Todo even needs to lift his cursed energy. The amount of which he has is even enough to surprise Hanami, despite them claiming it is still lesser than theirs. His cursed energy control is unmatched by many on this list, capable of imbuing inanimate objects with his energy, or dramatically amplifying the level of power he has behind his already terrifying physical attacks. Mostly relying on his brawling to get the upper hand on his opponents, this only creates more firepower one must endure. As mentioned before, Todo's high IQ also allows him to maintain this level of supremacy over others due to his quick wit and his ability to defend himself, and how easy he finds it to deceive opponents on what he's capable of, especially on the conditions surrounding his technique. Boogie Woogie, Todo's magnum opus, is what enshrines Todo in the higher echelon of fighters. his innate technique that allows him to switch places with anything that holds cursed energy when clapping his hands. Todo's opportunities to confuse his opponents multiply, capable of switching with them to dodge attacks or put them in harm's way. Or as we've seen him do specifically, he can switch with an ally, which can severely disorientate an opponent by making them consider all the different possibilities of switching that can take place. With all of the tools at his disposal, as someone who has also been graced by the sparks of black, and a known user of simple domain, Aoi Todo is a well-rounded powerhouse that has the spirit and charm to follow his own path, which is the most important thing for a sorcerer to grow into such a force of nature. Speaking of forces of nature, next up we have Yuji Itadori, the main protagonist of the series and number 5 on the hierarchy of Jujutsu High students. A highlight that has really come out of left field as far as background in Jujutsu society, at least as far as we know. From the very beginning of his life, Itadori Yuji was a special child, nicknamed the Tiger of the East. He was known for being one of the fastest, strongest kids in his hometown. Growing older and going through intensive training with Gojo Sensei and the like, Yuji has become durable enough to weather any storm. Although he lacks an innate technique, Itadori uses his physical advantages to his benefit, maintaining a massive upper hand in most close combat situations. Adept at quick thinking and with full utilization of his reflexes, Yuji completely dominates most other students with pure hand-to-hand skill, fast enough to dodge attacks that reach the speed of sound itself. Like Choso's piercing blood, Yuji's intensive durability need not even be used if an opponent is incapable of outsmarting him to land a hit. Although lacking book smarts, Itadori's high fight IQ allowed him to even force someone like Sukuna to heighten his awareness. Adapting completely to his surroundings as a sorcerer, especially later on into the series, Yuji's able to use this high fight IQ to stay ahead of most curse techniques, providing an effective challenge for people that would normally be able to dispatch any threat that didn't have a solid counter for their ability. Speaking of adapting, one thing that puts Yuji ahead of most characters is his ability to learn proficiently. His development of cursed energy manipulation over the course of the series has surpassed most others on this list, which has allowed him to use moves like Divergent Fist at will instead of merely being a bad habit of conduction. This cursed control has also given him the masquerade of being one who has truly mastered the sparks of black, capable of using Black Flash at a frequency that makes it seem like Itadori can summon the sparks at will. This proficiency only shining through as even on the same day Itadori learned Black Flash, he was able to break Nanami, the world record holder's reputation of 4 being the most amount of uses of Black Flash in a single day. With Itadori's natural-born superhuman tendencies already providing him a superior advantage over most average sorcerers, the fact his power has been multiplied immensely by the ingestion of 15 Sukuna fingers, using Choso's words, makes him resemble the ferocity of a demon god. This ascension resulting in him packing even more of a punch at his mentor Todo, and makes Yuji capable of contending with pillars of influence in the culling game such as Higuruma Hiromi. Although his major downfall is his inability to respond to threats with a curse technique of his own. Despite being able to muscle his way through most situations, his determination unfortunately does not equate to the potential of a skeleton key, as we've seen with Choso already. Regardless, his place on this list is justified by the sheer dominance he presents over the others beneath him. The two facts of the matter that put him above everyone ranked below: willingness and ability. The direct counterpart and protagonist of the series, Fushiguro Megumi just barely eclipses his classmate Yuji on the rankings, but nonetheless has earned his place at the top just underneath the top 3. Born to Toji Zenin and taken under the wing of Satoru Gojo at a young age, Fushiguro has been present in the world of sorcery since he was a child. Blessed with the genes of gold, Megumi ended up developing the Zenin clan's signature curse technique, the 10 Shadows. Capable of calling upon up to 10 different Shikigami using his shadow as an intermediary, as long as he properly defeats and tames each individual entity. The variety offered by this ability is unable to be matched by most sorcerers, as the different options granted by each Shikigami give Megumi an answer to most situations. And he has the intelligence to use them each effectively, whether separately or together. A foundational balance of speed, power, defense, combined with a willingness to put himself in danger, unlike most Shikigami users, make Fushiguro a formidable and unpredictable foe against the unseasoned enemy. Not falling far from his family tree, even at a baseline, Megami presents a solid understanding of weapons-based combat, well-rounded in blades, tonfas, and other options. His reaction time sharp enough to catch even his own father's movements when in point-blank range. However, unlike his dad, Megami's strongest features don't lie in his physical strength. Normally more reserved than most, Fushiguro was still able to be recommended for first grade, based on his ability to keep up with Noritoshi Kamo in the exchange event, as well as lead the group of second and first years into a rescue mission of their friend Itadori. Being one of the only 3 sorcerers on this list capable of domain expansion might also have something to do with it, as Fushiguro began to indulge in selfishness, beginning to reach out for what he desires most, led by words that encourage him to grow. His strength as a sorcerer has fluctuated significantly, his growth being a major factor as to what puts him above every one of his peers, senior and all, merging his wit and risky nature into a refined vision of his curse technique. 10 Shadows has developed into an extension of Fushiguro's will, rather than something he must abide by and follow the rules of. Shown able to duck in and out of his shadow at will to disorient opponents and mix up his close quarters combat, while also fusing his Shikigami into clever combinations, or faking their deaths entirely to trick others. With this dive into self-indulgence, Megami's bloodlust has also grown insatiable. The once quiet assist role character has become a ferocious brawler. Yuji and Megami seem to be rubbing off on each other. Fushiguro has also been able to work around the limitations of his barrierless domain to make them work in his favor, such as deceiving his enemies into trapping themselves in enclosed spaces while under duress at the same time. The evolution of Chimera Shadow Garden is also a completely different discussion, creating a domain where Fushiguro is able to multiply not only himself, but his Shikigami and unleash an onslaught of attacks depending on how best to fit the enemy, while the opponent is able to fight back. With Fushiguro's shadow stretched across the entire territory, it's impossible to get away from his grasp. Megami is also able to turn himself to shadow upon receiving any damage, essentially becoming invincible while he can launch never-ending attacks on his opponent. Despite a weakness of the domain being any weight swallowed by Megami's shadow is transferred onto him, he's been shown to even make this work to his advantage in a fight. At the end of the day, his shadow is nothingness, a dark abyss that can drown an opponent. Not only can Megami store his weapons in there, but he can store a victim in there and suffocate them until there's nothing left. Ignoring Maharaga completely, Fushiguro still sits at the top of his class, standing just between the threshold of grade 1 and special. But rest assured, compared to our top 3, the word special is just an understatement. Kinji Hakari, the Gambler of Fate, the second third year of Jujutsu High that was suspended for clashing with the conservative authority of the school. As the first of our top 3, Hakari represents an intense aura of power, being singled out specifically by Gojo, with Okkotsu Yuta as having the potential to rival the Honored One someday. As a freelance sorcerer, Hakari is the head of Gachinko Fight Club, a venue for hand-to-hand combat between cursed users and sorcerers alike for money. With no regards for the standards of Jujutsu society, Hakari fully embraces his self-serving nature, feeding into what he calls the fever, a word he uses to replace passion. Hakari does whatever excites him, having no shame whatsoever in taking advantage of the chaos after the Shibuya incident to further push his fight club into the mainstream. The gambler isn't foolish. His intellect far exceeds most on this list, perhaps even higher than his other 2 peers. A master of manipulation, Hakari is well aware that deep desires, or fever, runs in everyone, and gambling is a way to trap people in addiction on such fever. His driving force of his addition to the Culling Games team being his want to manipulate the masses' fever and get them hooked on the entertainment of his club, watching other sorcerers put their passions against one another to the death. With such a self-indulgent sorcerer, it's no surprise the man's cursed energy far exceeds even most veteran sorcerers. Able to manipulate his energy so well, it's even taken a unique shape and feel. Gojo noting that Hakari has a rough exterior to his attacks, making even soft lobs of his wrists destructively painful to endure. Making full use of this trait, Hakari has honed his physical abilities to the maximum, fast enough to even take someone that was able to see 2 seconds into the future off guard. His secondary damage effect makes each landing strike a critical blow, making him capable of incapacitating someone like Itadori without leaving any reaction time between his attacks. Even without the use of his curse technique, Hakari presents a massive threat to everyone below him in ranking, and even those above, just through sheer combat ability alone. But even this isn't enough to put him on a pedestal with someone like Satoru Gojo. What truly elevates Hakari to the realm of the strongest is the Gambler's Curse ability and domain expansion, Idle Death Gamble. Materializing Hakari's true love for the thrill, his domain surrounds the ideas of probability and gambling by taking the form of a pachinko machine, basically the Japanese version of a slot machine that allows citizens a loophole around anti-gambling laws. Specifically, a pachinko machine based on a romance manga series, Pure Love Train.
Wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
As the domain resembles a train station, a number of different scenarios can play out before Hakari and his opponent, simulating playing a role of a pachinko machine and watching the cinematic play out while you wait for a win or loss result. As the cinematic plays, Hakari is completely vulnerable and his opponent and him have free reign to continue fighting while the scenario plays out. Based on the result of the scenario, Hakari can either miss a jackpot, in which case the fight continues and he tries again, or Hakari lands the jackpot, in which case he's blessed with a surge of infinite cursed energy for exactly 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The length of the theme song for Pure Love Train, which plays in the background while he's receiving the power-up. This infinite cursed energy allows Hakari to amplify every aspect of his fighting ability. His speed is multiplied, his attack power drastically increased, and his body regenerates using reverse curse technique on instinct. Healing so quick and efficient, mind you, it is able to protect Hakari from death by brain electrocution, as well as eliminate toxins from his blood, with complete devastation almost guaranteed before the ending chorus of the song. One would think that was the least of their worries when battling the 3rd strongest Jujutsu High student, but that would be too boring, and Hakari hates boring. Upon deactivation of the infinite cursed energy buff, Hakari is replenished completely of cursed energy, and able to immediately follow this up with another domain expansion, immediately launching the fight back into his probability game and boosting his odds of landing a jackpot. Add on the fact that every 4th cast of his domain is an instant jackpot, it's easier to explain how you lose to Hakari Kinji than it is to explain how you can even try to win against him. Except for some people, like the newly awakened monster of heavenly restriction, Maki Zenin, who was able to, against all odds, destroy everything in her path without the slightest bit of hesitation or effort. A terrifying creature of pure power, Maki brought the entire Zenin family to oblivion using nothing but her sheer force of will and the hatred burning in place of her heart. The spitting reincarnation of Toji Fushigoro's essence. She carries the same aura of strength, influenced by the full embrace of her new abilities granted by Mai's sacrifice. When first introduced into the series, even being a quite capable combatant, even at that stage in her development, Maki's main downfall was her inability to deal with cursed spirits or techniques like the average sorcerer. During the Shibuya incident, although she's able to defend herself to a certain degree, she is ultimately useless in the battle with Dagon and needs to be saved by Naobito, much to her disgust. Despite a lesson learned, this same weakness is what holds her back again when she faces down against her father in Perfect Preparation arc. Nothing but a vanilla swordsman going up against supernatural beings. Lacking anything special about her, Maki was reduced to mediocrity amongst the highest level of her peers due to her inability to compete with their jujutsu progression. However, now graced with Mai's construction sword and the maximization of her humanity, she can rise to the challenge and meet her enemies with the full brunt of her rage. Now with enhanced speed, offensive power, and durability, Maki embodies everything Yuki Tsukumo could possibly hope for. What resides within Maki, behind her bare flesh, is the overwhelming intensity of the one who left it all behind. Bringing one of the 3 great sorcerer clans to their knees, Maki has shown that no threat is too large for her to overcome, taking out the entire Kukuru unit all at once, and continuing the slaughter from there by soloing the rest of the Hei, the Zenin clan's most elite warriors, without even breaking a sweat. Proceeding to then take on Naoya, the inheritor of Naobito's curse technique, and use her newly heightened extrasensory skills to locate a weakness in that ability, executing an actual counterattack against the projection sorcerer and putting him right in his place. In spirit, surpassing the man who put her down for all the years of her life. With the extermination of an entire clan of high-ranking sorcerers under her belt, Maki's strength lies in a realm above the other Jujutsu students at this point. A major player in the culling game team, Noritoshi quite honestly believes all is lost if they were to lose Maki. Sharing Toshi Fushigoro's trait of invisibility amongst sorcerers, Maki's able to disorient any opponents that she faces by remaining undetectable and also unpredictable. Only a nimble, experienced combatant stands a chance against Maki at this point. And as we've seen from the damage done to Naoya, even a simple punch can be lethal. Even someone like Hakari Kinji with his infinite cursed energy would be unable to last in a battle of attrition against the beast. Automatic regeneration wouldn't even be enough to keep Maki from eviscerating Hakari's skull and brain. And the damage she inflicts is more than enough to leave not even a single trace behind. With her bare hands, Maki stands to grasp the world in her fingertips, standing above all other sorcerers in the world as the perfect, maximized human being. But, like her predecessor before her, there exists another. An uneasiness in the air, just like times past. A sorcerer unlike any in history. The definition of perfection. Well on his way to actually eclipsing his sensei, contrary to popular belief. Okkotsu Yuta, the cursed child, is our #1 ranking on this list. In his own words, Okkotsu Yuta is blessed. Born with the genes of a legendary vengeful spirit flowing through his veins, his tendency to excel in sorcerer techniques exceeds anyone else in the series. In the matter of a few months, he was able to reach a level of physical aptitude equal of a close quarters master like Maki Zenin. And even now, in his matured form, he was able to climb his way back to a special grade class even after losing a real connection to Rika's cursed spirit. Yuta Okkotsu's hand-to-hand capabilities have only grown to a degree. He's able to forego using his sword even against powerful enemies and provide a hard-to-deal-with offense despite lacking any handicap or additional attack power. And with his boundless cursed energy providing an impenetrable second skin of durability, even a catastrophic foe like the newly unchained Maki Zenin would have to rely on critical strikes in order to deal any real damage to the cursed child. A true jack of all trades, Okkotsu's attack and defense stats allow him to stand on par with not only heavenly restriction, but even if he does incur any injuries, his mastery over reverse curse technique means he also shares the class of a healer, able to regenerate any lost limbs or organs at an intensely quick rate. Even though Yuta's able to handle damn near 85% of this list barehanded, leaving without a scratch, even the other 2 monsters in the top 3 can't even land a decisive blow without it instantly healing up. And even if Yuta's unable to make any headway on his own offensive, his ability to summon a partial manifestation of Rika's cursed spirit as a guardian that can tussle with high-powered opponents on her own is a secondary threat added to his arsenal. Let alone when the cursed child synchronizes with the tortured soul, gaining full access to his curse technique for 5 minutes. A time limit I'm forced to assume is self-imposed, as to not break the power system of the entire Jujutsu universe itself. Not only further multiplying his reserves of cursed energy that he hides stored inside the pseudo Rika, he also gains access to a hidden cache of cursed weapons, and his most dangerous aspect, his copy technique, which allows Okkotsu, after ingesting some shape or form of matter from an opponent or ally, to use the subject's technique for himself. Shown so far able to use even family-specific techniques like cursed speech, the the ability also seems to lack a buffer or learning period for copied powers, as Okkotsu is able to use both Druve and Uro's techniques almost instantly after absorbing their essence. Although remaining a quiet, reserved child, Okkotsu Yuta's power is solely used to defend those in need and help his friends whenever trouble reaches their way. A truly selfless boy who frankly doesn't enjoy violence, holds within him the strength to bring about the destruction of the entire Jujutsu world, given the time and preparation to do so. And the boy is only 17. With absolutely no doubt, Yuta Okkotsu is the second coming, the one who will surpass Satoru Gojo and move forward to carry the world of Jujutsu on his back. He, whose mere existence will keep the evil at bay and shine a light on all dark corners of the earth where the other Jujutsu sorcerers may not reach. Okkotsu Yuta is, without a doubt, the #1 sorcerer at Jujutsu High. And there you have it. Every single Jujutsu High student explained and ranked on a scale of 0 to Yuta. I appreciate you watching this long video if you made it all the way to the end. Please follow me on all of my socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and most importantly, like the video down below to let my editor know you enjoyed his work. And subscribe if you haven't already. Only like 13% of you guys are subscribed. Come on now, it takes 1 second. Let's fix that. Seriously guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.